The average provincial rainfall exceeded 161 millimeters, over 60% of the monthly average. 85,400 people evacuated, 2 confirmed dead, multiple injured, lives suspended between earth and water. A single moment when the earth beneath Dayuan village in Baiyun district shifted from solid ground to liquid catastrophe, trapping 14 people in a rain-triggered landslide that would define one of China's most devastating flood disasters of 2025. Welcome to Earth's Dark Secrets. I'm about to reveal how the Pearl River Delta's industrial empire crumbled under precipitation volumes that exceeded every engineering assumption, and why a routine Wednesday morning in Guangdong became the epicenter of systematic infrastructure collapse across southern China's most economically vital province. The geological betrayal at Ground Zero. Wednesday morning, August 6th, 2025, 8:30 a.m. sharp. The landslide struck Dayuan village with geological precision that defied decades of urban development assumptions. What made this disaster particularly devastating wasn't the timing. It was the soil liquefaction phenomenon that occurred beneath one of China's most densely populated metropolitan areas. By Thursday evening, rescue operations had recovered 10 of the 14 trapped residents, but the human cost crystallized the disaster's brutal mathematics. 2 confirmed dead, 7 injured, and a community discovering that their neighborhood had been built on ground that could transform from solid foundation to liquid quicksand under meteorological conditions nobody had anticipated. The families didn't die from storm winds or surface flooding. They died because saturated soil mechanics had been fundamentally altered by water infiltration that exceeded the Earth's structural load-bearing capacity for human habitation. Geological instability patterns were manifesting across multiple districts simultaneously, creating what disaster engineers call concurrent ground failure stress, where rescue resources face systematic earth movement across geographic areas too large for traditional emergency coordination. 85,400 lives in motion. The evacuation numbers tell a story that municipal planners never wanted to calculate. 85,400 residents relocated not because authorities were overly cautious, but because water levels rose faster than emergency protocols could accommodate across multiple floodplains simultaneously. Baiyun has deployed 607 rescue personnel and mobilized 733 pieces of rescue equipment, including excavators, life detectors, and emergency communication support vehicles. A total of 2,200 emergency and epidemic prevention supplies, such as tents and raincoats, have also been allocated. YG County alone required relocating 70,000 people. An entire city's worth of residents moved in less than 48 hours. The evacuation revealed critical bottlenecks in China's disaster response infrastructure. Emergency shelters designed for seasonal flooding were overwhelmed by displacement numbers that exceeded design capacity by 400%. Transportation corridors used for evacuation became inaccessible as the same water causing the evacuations made rescue routes impassable. Industrial ecosystem collapse. Guangdong province isn't just any flood zone, it's the global manufacturing nucleus that produces everything from semiconductors to consumer electronics for international markets. When water invaded this industrial ecosystem, the disruption cascaded through international supply chains with surgical precision. Electronics manufacturing facilities became indoor lakes, where circuit board production lines disappeared beneath contaminated water that rendered months of precision manufacturing completely unusable. Companies discovered their just-in-time supply networks had been instantly severed by water levels that exceeded every contingency plan. Warehouse districts transformed into temporary seas. Storage facilities containing inventory for global distribution found their contents floating in contaminated floodwater. Export facilities watched shipping containers detach from loading docks that had disappeared beneath unexpected lake systems. The Pearl River Delta's logistics corridors, transportation networks that normally moved billions of dollars in goods daily, were severed by water that transformed highways into temporary rivers, complete with stranded vehicles and emergency boat operations where rescue crews navigated using industrial roadways. Atmospheric warfare. The disaster began with atmospheric patterns that transformed southern China into a temporary tropical environment, without advance warning systems designed for such meteorological intensity. Guangxi province recorded over 1,000 millimeters, 40 inches, of rainfall in just 5 days. Precipitation volumes normally distributed across entire seasons compressed into less than a week of atmospheric dumping. This wasn't just heavy rain. This was meteorological concentration where weather systems focused moisture with surgical precision over China's most economically critical regions, creating what atmospheric scientists call training cell formation. Multiple storm systems moving repeatedly over identical geographic areas, like freight trains delivering liquid cargo. Urban drainage systems designed for seasonal water management encountered precipitation rates that resembled tropical storm conditions despite occurring hundreds of miles from any ocean. Infrastructure built for moderate water management faced volumes that exceeded design specifications by 500%. The atmospheric patterns revealed something climate researchers had been tracking but hadn't publicly emphasized. Southern China was experiencing weather system behavior that resembled tropical cyclone intensity despite geographic and seasonal conditions that made such patterns theoretically unprecedented. Human geography of emergency existence. Beyond statistics and economic calculations were individual survival narratives that revealed how quickly modern urban life transforms into primitive emergency existence under extreme environmental stress. Families who retired in comfortable apartments woke up wading through waist-deep water in their living rooms. Parents carried children through streets that had become rivers, navigating by memory through neighborhoods rendered unrecognizable by urban aquatic transformation. Elderly residents faced compounded challenges. Many couldn't evacuate independently and required assistance from neighbors managing their own emergency situations. Care facilities found themselves operating medical equipment and medication storage in buildings where electrical systems had failed and backup generators were submerged. Communication infrastructure breakdown added psychological terror to physical danger. Cell towers offline. Landline systems flooded. Internet infrastructure disabled. Families separated by evacuation procedures had no method to confirm each other's safety, creating emotional catastrophes that paralleled the physical destruction. Emergency shelters revealed the social complexity of disaster displacement. Strangers sharing sleeping space in overcrowded facilities. Families managing children in unfamiliar environments with limited privacy. Communities discovering how quickly social structures become stressed when basic needs like food, clean water, and personal space become scarce resources managed by emergency authorities. Recovery reality. 4 months later, Guangdong continues discovering hidden infrastructure damage that wasn't visible during immediate disaster response operations. Agricultural devastation extends far beyond flooded crop fields. Over 300,000 people were affected with widespread agricultural disruption, but the long-term food security implications are only becoming apparent as contaminated soil requires extensive treatment before crops can be safely cultivated again. Industrial recovery involves comprehensive environmental remediation rather than simple equipment replacement. Factories must undergo complete contamination removal to eliminate pollutants that could affect product safety standards. Supply chain reconstruction requires rebuilding relationships with international partners who may have permanently shifted to alternative suppliers during the disaster disruption. Infrastructure rebuilding demands fundamental system redesign rather than simple repair. Engineers discovered that replacing damaged systems with identical designs would recreate the same vulnerabilities that failed during the disaster, necessitating complete infrastructure reimagining. The recovery timeline extends years into the future. Transportation networks require rebuilding with enhanced drainage capacity. Buildings need foundation reinforcement to handle soil conditions altered by extreme water infiltration. Drainage systems require complete redesign to manage precipitation patterns that appear to represent new meteorological normals rather than exceptional events. Vulnerability truth. The Guangdong disaster exposes something municipal planners worldwide prefer not to acknowledge. Modern cities remain fundamentally vulnerable to water events that exceed their design parameters, regardless of infrastructure sophistication levels. 85,400 people evacuated from what was supposed to be one of China's most developed and disaster-prepared provinces. 2 confirmed dead in a landslide that occurred not because of exceptional geological conditions, but because soil saturation exceeded the Earth's capacity to anchor structures that had provided stable foundations for decades. The manufacturing heartland of global supply chains temporarily transformed into an aquatic disaster zone, where industrial production became impossible and international commerce was severed by water levels that rendered standard economic activity temporarily impossible. Suijiang Huaiji Station reached historical flood levels that surpassed every documented record in the region's hydrological history. As precipitation patterns continue evolving beyond historical precedent, cities across the world face an uncomfortable question. How much concentrated rainfall does it take to transform urban centers into aquatic catastrophe zones, where emergency crews spend weeks checking submerged buildings for survivors? The answer, as Guangdong discovered in August 2025, might be as simple as atmospheric conditions that compress seasonal moisture into weekly deluges capable of overwhelming every system designed to protect modern urban civilization. Thanks for watching Earth's Dark Secrets, where we expose the hidden realities behind our planet's most devastating disasters. If this investigation revealed something the mainstream media won't tell you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us uncover the stories that authorities don't want told. Hit the bell so you never miss our in-depth analysis of the disasters that reveal our planet's dark truths.